Welcome to the Phoenix Trainer. I'm Patrick. So today I want to discuss planks. So I'm holding a plank right now. Good exercise for abdominal strengthening, core strengthening in general. The important thing is the body line. So make sure that you're nice and straight. Your hips aren't up in the air. Your legs aren't bent. You're not sagging anywhere. The plank is the reason for the term is you want to be nice and straight like a board. I tend to push back on my feet a little bit, so I'm actually stretching my posterior chain a little bit. You can hold a plank for, from a matter of seconds to a matter of minutes. I think the longest plank so far has been 8 hours and something by a former Marine. The type of exercise, it's an isometric or static hold exercise. The great thing about it is there's not a sudden contraction. So like a sit-up, you're actually forcing that sudden contraction to lift your body off the ground. In a plank, you're basically just holding yourself. Muscles used are the rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis. Many other muscles are involved in a plank. Your whole body is really involved in the plank. One other thing I wanted to mention about body position in a plank is make sure that your elbows are directly underneath your shoulders. If you find that your elbows are a little bit ahead of or forward of your shoulders, or you find that your elbows are a little bit further behind your shoulders, you're going to put undue stress on your shoulders. It's going to be harder to hold the plank. So the more you can have that vertical line from shoulder to elbow in contact with the ground, the easier it is going to be to hold that position. So after my surgery, I had a discussion with my surgeon, probably a month and a half or 2 months after the surgery was done. And I'd already been walking, quite extensively. And I was debating in my own head as to what type of exercises I should do to, regain the abdominal strength that I most likely had lost, or at least, with the stoma, ostomy, colectomy, ileostomy, I was concerned about developing a hernia or possibly a prolapse happening. And so I was really thinking about avoiding any kind of sudden type of contraction. So like a sit-up would be something that would, be a sudden contraction to lift your body up off the floor. A rope pull down where you've got the rope behind your head with a cable machine and you're crunching down. Or even a crunch for that matter is still fairly aggressive for probably your first exercises after surgery. So the plank was what really came to mind for me. I talked to my surgeon about it and he said, he thought that was a really good exercise from the standpoint that there was no sudden contraction. It was just a static hold. The key feature for a plank was the longer the time under tension, the more those muscles get worked, but they're not forcefully contracting. So I think you're minimizing your risk of a hernia or a prolapse or something happening. In the beginning, you want to start out nice and slow, just do a couple seconds. Once you feel like you're comfortable, you can hold that position a little bit longer, start increasing your time. I started out probably like a 15-second plank, and shortly as I was doing them, probably a couple weeks later, I was up to 3.5 minutes. It's not a hard position to get into. But it's very effective. And like I said in the earlier shot, was that it's a whole body exercise. The abdominals, the back, the legs, the hips, almost shoulders, everything's involved in this exercise. But it really focuses on the core. I can't guarantee that you're not going to get a hernia. I think a plank is probably one of the safest exercises you can do to avoid getting a hernia. And the reason I say that is, people have gotten hernias from sneezing or from coughing, and I'm talking specifically about people that have an ostomy. People have gotten hernias from just getting out of bed. A lot of that is due to that they had poor core strength to begin with. They may be overweight, and with that type of thing, yeah, it's going to be easier to get a hernia. For me, I had been an athlete for 16 years before my surgery, and my core strength was pretty strong. So I wasn't all that concerned about, those type of factors. and I haven't had a problem yet. In another video, we'll discuss more about other things that I've done and to mitigate the possibility of getting a hernia. But I really think it's probably like the best place to start as far as other exercises are concerned, or sit-ups or anything else like that. I think a plank is going to be your best way to start to slowly regain your abdominal strength. So you haven't done a plank before. A lot of my clients haven't done planks before either. A lot of them can't do a plank. You may find yourself in a position for yourself that you can't do a plank either. A lot of people are a little heavier. It's a lot harder to do a plank if you're carrying a lot of extra weight. The great thing about a plank is because it works through gravitational pull. When you are in a plank like I was in the very beginning of the video, I'm at the full extent of a plank. I'm almost parallel with the ground, and so the gravitational pull is really working on me, right? So what I can do to modify that is I can start angling my body up, right? So the more I angle up, the less pull I'm having on my abdominals and my back and everything else trying to hold that position. So you can find different things in your house that are at different heights, countertops, coffee tables, make sure something is really stable before you go ahead and start doing planks on it. Edge of the bed. You can work on having your arms being straight instead of being on your elbows, so that gets you off the ground a little bit more. So for instance here, I've got this, put my elbows right here, get my legs back, my feet back, and then I make sure that I'm nice and straight, and my abdominals are contracted, and I'm holding a plank. Now it's not as hard as the ones where I'm parallel to the ground, but I'm still doing the exercise. Over time, I can lower myself down. So say I get over here, this time I'm using my arms straight, but I'm still lower than I was before. So I'm straightening my legs out. I can even do that and hold the plank. I want to go a little lower. I can come down my elbows, and I can do the same thing. And as I've been going down, it's been more and more tension on my core. You can do the same thing. Start high, work yourself down. Eventually you'll get to the point where you can actually do a full plank. You may not be able to do one for a minute or 30 seconds, but maybe you can get to the point where you get to that plank and you can hold it for 10 seconds, maybe 15, and you work your way from there. And the same thing with these. Start here, maybe you can only hold this for 5 seconds. That's fine. Slowly work yourself to go lower and lower and let gravity, pull a little bit harder each time. The great thing about this is it's a slow and steady progression. And as far as re-strengthening the abdominals, I would say that's the best way to go with someone with an ostomy, colectomy, ileostomy. Slow and steady. There's no reason to jump in and just start going crazy and really pushing yourself. Get yourself where you can do a plank for a while, and then we can start doing other things on top of it. Planks can also be modified where you're doing a lot of other things during the plank and even get more benefit from that. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful. Stay strong and stay safe.